I thought, I'm never going to make 3 films back-to-back again, never such a long shoot. I never realised that 10 years later, we were doing it all over again.
To suddenly be...
If anyone can keep the spirit of the book, it's Peter and Fran and Philippa and the gang.
And the scramble to get a movie made, sometimes you don't really know where you are at any one time, but I remember the day when I knew we were back in Middle-earth.
It's a mixture of nostalgia and surrealism, and I didn't know how to, how to process it.
That was probably what Pete was rightfully mindful of, was like what happens when a load of people descend on a small space.
The Lonely Mountain.
Lots of men, lots of testosterone, all acting the hell out of each other, you know what I mean?
I took a bashing over those 2 weeks. I took a real bashing. And the thought of sitting in front of a monitor, watching 3D with glasses on, I thought, bring it on, bring it on.
The process of making this film is one where everybody is just trying to keep up and deal with things that are happening on the day, and sometimes they're quite major.
Everyone went, okay, if we can achieve that in that much time, we can make this movie. We can get it done.
It's rare that a challenge will be so great that myself or our team are sort of hitting our heads against a wall, but I think we were close to it.
I felt pretty miserable and thought perhaps has the time come for me to stop acting altogether if I can't cope with these difficulties.
I think in a previous life, quite a few of our construction and design people were part of some medieval torture kind of world. I don't know.
We put the same effort and ethic into this in Lord of the Rings, but it just got bigger and it got more extensive on The Hobbit.
That was one of the things that Peter told us very early on. Don't think small, think big, think wide.
He has a big picture for the character that I can't quite see yet. So even though there's stuff here that I don't know if I can do it, I just know that he'll take me there.
The making of the movie was almost walking step by step, stride by stride with our company as they were on their own journey. This is a very complicated movie times 3, all at once. This is going to be the hardest thing I ever do in my life, and I will never. I've actually had enough really of these complicated things. My next movie is going to be very simple. Whatever it is, it will be as simple as hell. When we made The Lord of the Rings, I was absolutely sure that that was going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Just run forward and give him a big hug. And, you know, I thought, that's done. It was an amazing experience. Finished.
Then, you know, time carries on, and post Rings, he gets into the world of King Kong, and then there starts to be these rumblings of what's going to happen with The Hobbit.
After Lord of the Rings finished, all of us are, of course, anxious. When is The Hobbit going to happen?
Let's not shut the One Ring Dog down just at this moment.
And there was all this fan build-up and excitement about trying to get it made. Let The Hobbit happen, I think, was the campaign.
The idea of doing The Hobbit was always there in terms of the fact that the Lord of the Rings trilogy had been successful. The studio was keen to do it, but there were rights issues involved which were quite complicated.
Primarily because Warner Brothers didn't own all the rights. They were shared between Warner Brothers and MGM, a historical situation, I think, that goes right back to the 60s, actually, when Tolkien originally sold the film rights.
And around 2008, there was a real will to sort out the rights issue. But Peter had made the decision, I don't need to direct this.
The first time I ever mentioned or asked Pete if The Hobbit was ever something that he would consider, we were on location, on Rings, somewhere in a forest, and we had a bit of downtime, and I just kind of, would you ever think about the potential making The Hobbit after this is all said and done, now that you've spent so much time establishing the world of Middle-earth? And he was quick to answer with, no, not interested in that.
I was always unsure whether I should direct The Hobbit. I didn't really want to end up in a position where I was thinking back to what I did in Lord of the Rings, feeling like I was almost competing with myself. But on the other hand, we kind of feel a sentimental attachment, a sort of ownership to the Middle-earth that's been put on the screen. So the concept was that we would produce it, and Fran and Philippa and I would be involved in the script as writers, possibly with somebody else, and that we'd have another director come on board.
He had a very strong inkling of who he wanted to direct it very early on.
Guillermo del Toro was one of our favourite filmmakers, and he was very enthusiastic about doing it. And in our mind, he was a director that would do a really interesting version of The Hobbit.
I am exploding with the desire of just showing everything. It's fun, but it's challenging, it requires you to have your stuff together. You know, you have to do your homework every day. I really trust that we're in good shape.
We began writing with Guillermo, and that was wonderful. But unfortunately, we had no green light. The movies weren't green lit.
However, during that time, Warner Brothers were still funding the pre-production, so Guillermo was able to do a lot of the work that the director would do in that year and a half before you actually start rolling the camera.
That's great. That's my favorite.
Okay.
Like Peter, Guillermo's really passionate about design.
That's great.
It was a very intense and enjoyable period.
We had a workshop, we were building maquettes, and actually I think they were even starting to build armour. There was a lot of money being spent, and yet there was no deal between MGM and Warner Brothers. And when a deal was getting close, when it felt like there was a deal, then MGM got into some financial problems. That got to the state that, you know, each of our proposed start dates with Guillermo got pushed, delayed.
We got to the point where it really was difficult to maintain the drive that you need to make a film when you're in this suspended state.
And so it became a question of whether Guillermo waited for the next 6-month delay, or does he move on and jump back on board one of the other projects he was developing. And that's ultimately what happened around May and June in 2010.
I remember the meeting where he announced that he had to leave, and he was very clearly heartbroken.
I saw Peter's face, which was grey, and I thought the whole thing had just folded, to be honest. It was a horrible moment.
We understood why he needed to move on, respected that decision, but it did leave us with the issue of, okay, so what now?
Peter didn't immediately, pick up the reins either. I think a lot of people think that as soon as Guillermo left, Peter was in. That was not the case. I think Peter kind of struggled with it.
At the point that Guillermo left, a substantial amount of money had been spent and a huge amount of work had been done. And we talked about it and said, well, do we now find somebody else who would like to make The Hobbit and sort of essentially start that journey again? Or do we help the studio in a very difficult situation, and do I step in and do it?
I was in a tricky position with agents trying to start doing deals with people that we were wanting. And agents were kind of going, but hang on a minute, you don't have a director, so we can't, and you're not actually green-lit completely. And I spoke with Caro, producer, and said, I'm completely stuck now. And she went, right, let's go and see Peter. And we went and saw him. And I said, I can't really go any further because nobody can take it seriously. They need to know there's some certainty here, because there is none. And I'll never forget, he went, you're absolutely right, picked up the phone. I think he was calling Ken Cammons, Peter's manager, and he went, Ken, we can't move ahead until this is confirmed, so we need to confirm this. And it was like, excellent. All right, good.
And it might be interesting to see Gandalf in something like this. You think, oh my God, Gandalf's kind of trapped. And
by this stage, I think Peter had fallen in love with the story. We'd spent 18 months writing it. We had a lot of ideas.
It took us a few weeks after Guillermo left to really make up our mind to do it, and then we still didn't have a green light. I mean, that's what is easy to forget now, that after Guillermo left, it was another 4 months, maybe 5 months before MGM did sort out its financial problems, and we actually knew we were making the film.
Because just to sort of pick Bag End out as being the focus,
When we heard that Peter was going to step in and direct it, it's like coming home, because he was there leading the charge for us on those first 3 films, and it's hard to imagine those ever happening without Pete.
Put the front entrance there, the main entrance there, and put Dale, kind of cheap Dale, down there a little bit. At the point that we got the green light and everyone said, yes, we want to make these films, I suddenly looked up and found myself with very little time to prepare. On Lord of the Rings, I had probably 2.5 years to prepare for 3 movies. And on The Hobbit, I had about 5 months to prepare.
Valentine's Day, the 14th of February, was our original start to shooting.
The first questions we all had was, well, what's going to change and what's going to stay the same?
In terms of Guillermo's designs, I looked at it and I thought this would be an amazing Guillermo del Toro film, but I can't do that. I can't suddenly step in and impersonate another filmmaker. Got all the ones that I've identified as kind of the current favourite. It would be good to do our little layout. Yeah. What I thought I had to do at that point was to say, okay, you're the guy that made The Lord of the Rings. Get back into that zone. Get back into that headspace.
For me and our team at the design studio, we began a process of redesign because, of course, Peter is a director of his own vision, and he therefore needed to remodel the work to suit the way he wanted to visualize the world.
We were able to start casting the film. We were able to start seeing people in particular roles. It gave us the energy of, we're doing this, it's going to happen.
There was quite a long period in the years between Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and Fran and I just took the attitude, well, if we end up doing The Hobbit, that'll be because, you know, that's where fate has pushed us. So now, 10 years after The Lord of the Rings, we find ourselves back on set with essentially the same crew. So I've sort of done the once-in-a-lifetime experience twice in my lifetime, but not a third time. There won't be a third time.
Whatever the best plan that's laid, sometimes you can never predict the humps in the road that will throw you off. And we were ultimately left with just a matter of a few months before we started shooting.
At that point in time, we were ramping up at record numbers of people. We were trying to find international crew from all over the world to come in and facilitate dwarven prosthetics, dwarven hands, weapons, pretty much crafts and skill bases from all over the world.
The first thing to do is probably just to bulk up a few of those and also then make a few that are more crooked.
We were going to be building over 100 sets in 4 studios, and I can't say we actually panicked, but we started to develop strategies to make that happen. I mean, one of them was we started to work out how to utilise our spaces and our facilities better, and one of the ways we did that was put on a night art director, a night team who could be very effective. And so we basically got our studios working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The pressure was on. Design still needed to be locked off. Manufacturing was going guns.
We were casting hot metal, we were machining, we were forging, we were moulding and casting with urethanes and polyesters.
So we've got 11 of the 13 dwarves here, and this is final approval on the prosthetic sculpt before I take them to show the director tomorrow.
We were starting to come up with some beard and hair designs and some early concept passes. Alan and John were furiously working into it, the costuming department. It was crazy.
So it's the excitement and the buzz, but it's also quite a challenge to produce something so quickly.
The camera department had already started because that was quite a massive undertaking.
We had to turn over cameras within a couple of weeks of actually getting the equipment out of the boxes, out of the crates.
At one point we had a stage itself, which was actually quite a large stage. We had almost like a factory going with rigs and various accessories and people building boxes with networking systems and sync pulse generators and wireless systems.
And we were very much learning the ropes at that point. So there were many, many things that still had to be solved. Mechanical things, electronic things. We had to basically hook it up and get it to run very, very quickly.
This balcony thing's a little bit too tall.
Sure.
The railing. I think it should come down about 2/3 that height.
We had constant reviews of sets we were building, key props we were introducing. It's a scramble, you know. It's January, the actors are turning up.
I had no concept of what was ahead.
None whatsoever.
We were wondering, thinking, what's it all going to be like? You know, what's the makeup going to be like? What costumes? Where are we going to go? And because we hadn't even really read the script.
Then we had our first kind of taste of what it was going to be like. We were given a tour of the studio.
Go on, kiss it.
It's just amazing. Oh my God. It's just extraordinary. Look at that. I'm so impressed.
It kind of felt like it was really happening, and this wasn't a surreal dream. I was actually on this journey with these guys, and then suddenly the Dwarf Boot Camp happened.
The boot camp was essentially a training period during which we were introduced to various aspects of what we would be required to do through the production.
Once you're on set shooting the movie, you know, there's very little time to actually train. So it allows the actor to look like they were born doing this. And they've been doing it for, in the case of a dwarf, for like 100 years. They're not just somebody doing it nervous and doing it for the first time. You want that confidence. You want that sense of, okay, this is who I am and this is what I do. And that only comes with quite prolonged training.
Roll and pop yourself back up, okay?
Tim Wong, who was on my team, would put all the dwarf actors through a routine to ascertain their fitness, basically.
You had people like Graham McTavish, who'd been training for months leading up to this role, and then you had other people who hadn't done as much training and preparation, well, for the physical side anyway.
Yeah, I'd never done any exercise prior to this in my whole life.
Everybody then was beginning at varying levels of ability, because you've got, John Callan's 65.
I'm quite sure I was very frustrating for a number of other people who are so much more agile than me.
You know, you had some guys that had never done a forward roll probably since they were 7 or 8 or 9 years old.
Can I do a forward roll? Who can't? I can't.
Those of us who maybe let ourselves go in recent years had to confront some challenges about aerobic fitness and weight.
5, 6.
You were kind of invited to do as much as you wanted to do, given that if you want to be fit to do this job, you'd probably be quite wise to get fit. Do you know what I mean?
3.
Martin joined us, I think, a week or two later. Because of his character and the way Bilbo is and his ability, he probably didn't have to be there, but he told us that he wanted to be there.
8.
We did a lot of time, like with Tim Wong when we first started, our basic sword movements.
6, 7.
It is muscle memory, and you're doing it so often that you don't have to think about it, and that's kind of the way it works.
We've been really chucked in at the deep end, but all this we've been doing as the 14 of us.
Not only did we have the actors to deal with, we had all the scale dwarfs to deal with. We called them scalies, actually. The scale doubles they ranged from 5'2" down to about 4 foot.
We had some people come back from Lord of the Rings who had been scale doubles. That was Kieran Shah and Trevor and Brett, and it was really good to have them back doing the work.
102, 103, 104.
All the skill doubles were put through the stunt training because we knew we were going to fight, we were going to fall, we were going to do a lot of things.
They were probably going to be doing just as much fighting and falling as the stunt guys, so we had to try to make them as skillful and believable as the stunt guys.
We actually had a whole liege of people training them because they had so many specific skills that they needed for their performance. But Nathan and Nick in particular were there for their acting.
Initially, we had the scale doubles and we trained them separately from the actors. That was because we really wanted them to feel they were at a really good level before going to the actors.
Okay, rehearsing.
Sometimes they would be playing a scene opposite Sir Ian McKellen, so you don't want to put kind of chooks up there to work with them, you know.
When you hear the word noise, look, you see where that white cross is? That's where you're looking, and then you can, of course, react to Gandalf's line.
In a perfect world, there would have been the perfect sized actors with the same credentials and qualities that our actors have, but there isn't.
What we needed were people who were just small people. We needed their proportions to be very, very similar to the actors whose roles they were doubling.
So for us, it didn't matter, male, female. It was all about height, body type and attitude.
So we had a gas fitter, we had a mum who was going to swap out with her husband and he was going to be the at-home dad.
I don't think they quite believe that Mum's been sword fighting and wrestling.
It's awesome.
We had a recovery nurse, we also had a former police detective.
And a young woman straight out of high school who wasn't anything yet in terms of career.
So we kind of had to teach them the film industry. We had to teach them some of the things that they'd be required to do.
Nathan and I, both who have a lot of experience teaching acting, so what we really developed was like an intensive first-year drama school course.
I'd like you all just to cast your eyes over the script now from the top and identify what you think is the first beat in this scene.
In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole full of worms and oozy smells. This was a hobbit hole, and that means good food, a warm hearth, and all the comforts of home.
During our rehearsal period, our kind of boot camp period, we were called to the read-through for the first film.
Have you seen the state of my kitchen? They've pillaged my pantry. There's a mud trod into the carpet, and I'm not going to tell you what they've done in the bathroom. All but destroyed the plumbing.
We were so nervous about that read-through, because they filmed that, of course.
It'll melt the flesh off your bones in the blink of an eye. A flash of light, and then poof, you're nothing more than a pile of ash.
Even though everybody says, relax, it's okay, nobody's judging you. Everybody's judging you. Everybody. Down to the guy bringing in the tea.
Yeah, that first read-through, that was really nerve-wracking for me because I definitely didn't have Thorin's voice at that point.
I am telling you, we act now, or we lose what is rightfully ours.
And I was experimenting with vocal tone and pitch and sound, but at the same time, you're nervous because you're thinking that Pete, Fran and Phil are sitting there wondering why they might have cast this British actor who's not quite old enough, and so I had all my reservations.
They must have come down from the Eton Moors.
We cannot move in daylight.
No.
So there must have a cave nearby.
Just hearing the read-through was extraordinary. Thinking about what was ahead was neat.
But really it was for them to hear the story, to hear those characters evolving.
And it was interesting. You know, it's always good to hear the script off the page. It allows you to feel the pace of the film.
It's been foretold when the ravens of Erbo return to the mountain, the reign of the beast will end.
At the first script read-through, the true realisation of the journey that we were about to embark on suddenly came to light.
It's all going swimmingly well, and I'm excited.
Well written, folks.
Yeah, bravo.
We were in the most critical part of pre-production. And I remember getting a phone call saying Pete had been rushed to hospital because he had an ulcer and it had perforated.
Award-winning Kiwi filmmaker Sir Peter Jackson's had a health scare and filming of The Hobbit will be delayed while he recovers from surgery for a bleeding ulcer. Sir Peter was admitted to Wellington Hospital last night after suffering from stomach pains.
So we got all the heads of department, got them all up in the cafeteria and let them know that Peter was quite sick.
I've said to our team here, there's There's a few things in your life that you always visualize as completely solid, and so like when you're a young child, you never can imagine your dad falling unwell or being frightened of anything, and to a certain degree it was like that with Peter. He's always been this solid rock of a person soldiering through any storm.
It was not the most pleasant experience, I can tell you, in the world to go through, but I was sitting there recuperating and storyboarding and actually working with Phil and Fran, you know, from my sickbed, as it were.
Of course, the immediate thought is, well, we'll go into some sort of hiatus and everything will stop for a while. But that wasn't to be the case. In fact, we were going to carry on.
The camera guys all stayed on. They kept testing.
All right, here we go. This is the 3-reality rig, straight handheld, no back brace.
We were able to just push out so many kinks in the system between, you know, what they were doing on set, what was happening down at Park Grove Post, a huge amount of problem solving.
The actors were already here when that happened, and so they kind of got a slightly extended training period. I think their boot camp lasted a bit longer.
We got an extra month training together, which was good because we got to work out our characters and we got to spend time with all the other dwarves. We got to know each other, we got to socialise quite a bit. Yeah, it was great.
I love it, I love it. It's good.
How's my beautiful Molly? What a beautiful girl. She's such a good girl.
Monday morning around here, can't get any better really, can it? This is Popeye. This is oh, hello. This is Ori's horse.
Beautiful.
We share beards.
This is Gypsy, Gypsophila. She's a beautiful mare. As if I wasn't lucky enough, we get to go horse riding.
We have horse riding because we do actually ride horses in the film, and you know, we have to have a certain competence so that you can actually sit on a horse on set. Safety both for us and for the other people on the set, but also just to make it look like we actually know what we're doing.
Our riding instructors are just incredible, the whole feeling of that. And that's another thing that comes with it, this wonderful feeling of camaraderie when we're out there on the horses.
Good girl, good girl. Yes.
I do quite like riding, and we'd done a lot of riding training, so I was determined that Thorin wasn't going to be a poor rider. But you know what, I really got it, and God, I love that horse, Shaman. We got on so well.
I love horses. I was brought up with horses as a kid, so it's just magical. And again, that's part of our training.
The rest of my day, a bit of sword training, the gym, and then early start for me because I've got a 4 o'clock call tomorrow morning. So,
Getting into your ready? Go!
Terry Notary was our movement instructor. He worked in the Cirque du Soleil troupe, and before that was a United States representative gymnast.
He's just amazing. He has an incredible ability to create movements for any type of creature that you could possibly imagine.
Let's start just moving the weight side to side. Feel that weight distribution.
Terry took us through a long period of learning how to move as dwarves because they wanted it to be a signature movement that is unique to them rather than a human style of moving.
Dwarves have a deep foundation in their core, and they leave a large footprint. And they're gut-driven, so they lead with their gut.
we were spending lots of days with our stomachs pushed out, kind of walking around this room in a very different way than humans do.
Excellent, excellent.
The walks were the trickiest thing, is getting this sort of lollop out of the walk.
Humans rise as they walk, whereas a dwarf is low and it just moves like a tank.
That's it, that's it. There it is. You feel that? That's it, right there.
They're not characters that are light and that bounce or jump. They're characters that when they move, their feet stay connected to the ground. They're people of the earth.
That's it, that's it. Yes!
You concentrate on the center of you and you move
accordingly. Demonstrate dwarf movement to you very easily. So that's me at 5'7.5". So I just go down to that. So it's like, it's deep, it's down. As Terry says, get down. Get down, guy.
Get it down, shake it down.
You gotta get down.
Get it down.
Just keep down.
One of the most important things is how you move, and the shoes make a hell of a difference.
Oh, yeah, the boots. Oh, boy. Yeah, those boots. The first day they brought them in, and they just looked so big.
We pulled on these big boots and started walking around in them, and everybody thinking, oh my God, this is so peculiar.
My shoe is about this size. And lifting your leg off the floor is about as much as you can do.
As soon as you get those boots on, there was really only one way to move, which was exactly what Terry had been aiming for.
When you first put them on, you feel like you've just suddenly wrapped your feet in concrete. And then, please run now. Please fight. Yeah, you can't imagine how you're going to do it.
Lift leg forward.
And then we did a lot of gesture exercises where they would come up with different gestures than from our culture, but still have a recollection of meaning to us, you know, as viewer.
Brother. And then this is people who know each other very well.
I do want to go.
Thank you very much for coming down to New Zealand. Just a first quick question. We take our Hobbits pretty seriously down here. How important, I'm wondering, to you guys was it that the Hobbit was shot down in New Zealand?
It does feel like home, and we've all settled in quite easily, and the weather's so fantastic, and it's freezing cold back home, and this is the closest thing to summer camp I think I'm ever going to get, really, so I'm loving it.
It is genuinely lovely, and people are bending over backwards to look after us, and they're really, really appreciative of the fact that those of us who've left family behind and are starting new families here. They're being very mindful.
Richard, we haven't heard from you yet. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your role?
I just think it's a really amazing opportunity to take a character from a book that I was brought to as a child, and that my first experience on stage was in a production of The Hobbit.
Really?
At the Alex Theatre in Birmingham.
Really?
And I played an elf.
Wow.
And Gollum was a little papier-mâché puppet with a man off stage on a microphone.
There's a lot of singing in The Hobbit. Is anyone not going to be doing their own singing?
We'll all be doing our own singing, and some of us will be singing for everybody else at the same time as well.
As part of our Dwarf Boot Camp, we had dwarf singing lessons.
I've got a fantastic vocal warm-up, and I made them all do it. Viva, 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 viva.
That was wonderful. I mean, everyone was joking and fooling around all the time. There was something, it was just insane.
Let's f***ing Bilbo Baggins! Let's get him! Kill him!
I definitely think the actors were enjoying themselves. They got a great sense of humour.
We took it seriously, though. Don't get the idea we're just out there to have fun. We were working.
Well, I was just going to come in and watch and listen if
Brilliant.
it was all right.
This works out wonderfully.
All the actors at this point were sort of in their workshop phase. So part of that was all sort of, being together and going through these experiences together as a group.
Can we make a circle? And is that
around?
It was actually fantastic to have Martin in the rehearsal room because he became the focus. And then all the dwarves sort of looked to him and they were taunting him and they could focus everything at Martin, and he was great. He was great to have around.
Ik fi usu kazad.
That's it, that's it. And but just watch, it's not kazad, like kazadu.
Kazad.
Yeah, that's it.
We had Dwarvish lessons as part of our dialect coaching.
Absolutely fascinating. And hearing Rasheen and Leith do it and helping us learn was absolutely extraordinary.
It was a fantastic time getting to know and work with the actors in terms of the language work, introducing them to Krusdul, to Dwarvish.
So what want with the KH, as in Khazad-dum, we've been going Khazad.
Khazad.
Bring it forward so it's more Khazad.
Khazad.
That's-
Khazadun.
Krusdul has a very different feel to any of the other languages, I think. It has a roughness to it as well. Mafara dafuk. So it's that feeling of, you know, just clearing something away.
It's harsh, and it has those harsh tones.
The fruk.
Yeah.
The
So
the fruk.
There's a raspy sound, there's a heavy sound. It's kind of really matches how the dwarves move.
So let's try Iron Hills, which is Urad Zirnul. That's exactly right. So it just kind of becomes...
Do it exactly right again, John.
It won't happen ever again. Certainly not when the cameras are rolling.
No, that's true.
It's a very in-house, very private thing to talk Dwarvish.
Their language is secret. They have a secret name.
We believe that if you say your name, then you're giving your power away to someone and they can steal it and use it for whatever.
That gives you an ownership. That gives you a particular connection to your character that I think is unique.
Show them how much dwarf language you've learned, Adam. Paying attention, weren't you?
Yeah.
Lo mafrad dabka. That means not fit for a fight.
William Kircher has a very particular kind of connection to Dwarvish because his character can only speak Dwarvish, is not capable of speaking in the common tongue.
The entire interview is going to have to be in Krusdul because that's all I respond to, so please, far away.
Ni ikrit fund. Like he said, never trust an elf.
I hope you're all happy. The things I do to get an extra few weeks of prep. It's the only plan I can think of.
Always nice to have Peter back in charge and making decisions and stuff like that in person.
He recovered, had his energy back and his colour back and same Peter again.
But I remember the original Conan the Barbarian, you know, the first Conan film where he had that great big bronze sword, sort of hand and a half or two-handed sword. You know, he made that fighting look incredibly heavy. Like you knew that sword had got real weight.
So within the boot camp as well, we had weapons training.
I mean, to really sell the weight, I think you also probably need to have to almost, the weapon's almost going to pull you off balance, and you need to sort of use your foot to catch your balance a couple of times.
I think the good thing with Pete is not only can he tell you what he wants, a lot of the times he can actually show you what he wants.
It's making sure that when you do it, it's not too kind of quick. It should be, you know, if you're leaning back, it should be, you know, it's almost like you've got to kind of fight against the weight a bit, but then you're going to come forward and sort of drag the thing forward. It's getting that kind of feeling that you're as much fighting the weight of the weapon, but you're going to use and harness all that momentum.
So what we did was we supplemented with heavy sledgehammers, and they would swing them around to get the idea and feel of what a heavy weapon should feel like.
We work with sledgehammers, learning how to get that really powerful swing, because I have to use the Orcrist sword, which is really heavy and really long, and it's quite a hard sword to balance, so I've had to work on my forearm strength so that I can actually wield the sword.
I'm going to drop it forward, put the blade behind, point it down.
Steve, the sword master, just takes you through it, and by the end, we were zooming about, taking on 5 guys at once.
McTavish just scares the bejesus out of me, that Scottish man coming at 100 miles an hour. And even Adam Brown, who's supposed to be my younger brother, is scary as hell. I mean, I don't know what's happening. They're all becoming these fervent, angry little dwarves. What are you trying to do to me?
I think all the dwarves all love the fight training side of things.
He's screaming like a baby.
So the scale doubles had exactly the same weapons as the actors and the stunt doubles. So all it would be was that their weapons were a little bit smaller.
As you can see, everything I have to do, Amy has to do, so it's Dory, Dory and Dory.
Yeah?
So the aim is to make stunt double Jimmy expendable.
Yeah.
Dory number 1, Dory number 2, coming for Dory number 3.
There ain't no room for a third.
Ain't no room for a stunt boy.
I think he's hitting a little hard.
You're going to get some people who are just a lot more enthusiastic about swinging their weapons around compared to others.
It's all about control. That's what I know.
Oh, Mum.
It's like being a kid in the playground, playing Cowboys Indians.
Every boy's dream.
It's basically Cowboys and Indians with a paycheck sometimes, Tommy. That's basically what it is.
I've just been doing archery training. I would pay to learn how to do archery.
Doing a lot of archery stuff, yeah. Killy he's quite a skillful bowman.
Dwarves shoot their bow horizontally and low slung.
And we had to do this obstacle course when we had to like fire from the hip, turn around and run and fire and, yes, varying degrees of success.
Elegant.
Yeah, just some people were really not that great. Well, dare I use the word shit.
Where's the fucking arrow block? Oh, shut your face.
You totally forget that you're doing this as part of your job.
Looking back on it now, I think getting us together out in New Zealand, all the dwarfs, for boot camp was vital.
We ended up, I guess, being essentially 3 months of training. And apart from getting us fit, we got to bond very, very much as a group.
So that period was invaluable in bringing us all together. We've all really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's pretty commendable to say what these guys went through and what they did. It was hard work for them.
But I am now very, very fit. I am.
What was achieved in that last 2 months before the first day of shoot actually defies human endeavour at some level, and a real tribute to the teams across all departments that rallied around and got the work done.
When it's actually in pre-production and we haven't actually started to shoot our first scene yet, you can feel the anxiety. Is this going to get done in time? Is that going to get done in time? You're looking at 18 months ahead, and the enormity of the job is kind of almost overwhelming. But you know what? I mean, I'm of the feeling that you could add another 2 or 3 months to that process, and that feeling would sort of still be there. It would never really go away. But once you start shooting, you're actually only looking a day or 2 or a week ahead. You're just taking it one day at a time. The beginning of the shoot has a calming influence on the entire company.
One of the things we wanted to do to mark the start of shooting was to do a pōwhiri ceremony.
Pōwhiri is a traditional Māori
a welcoming ceremony. So when you have visitors from away coming to participate in a project, we introduce ourselves to one another, or the two groups.
A ceremony like that means everything to New Zealanders, or all forms. So it was absolutely the right way for us to start.
Up until the porphyry, and that morning, there was a little bit of foreboding kind of hanging over the whole Hobbit film, and to open it in a very special way put a whole lot of hope into everybody.
And the porphyry is really saying, we're here, this is our place. If you come with peace, then welcome on. And there was a challenge where a feather or a part of a tree is put down on the ground, and if you come in peace, then you, holding eye contact, have to pick it up.
And I remember everyone being up in this lovely sort of early morning light, just waiting to go in. We weren't exactly sure what it was going to be like, you know. We'd kind of been prepped for an, you know, that someone had come to talk to us for about 20 minutes. He was saying, you know, it's a very traditional, age-old Maori custom, a sort of greeting and a kind of warning. So I said, so presumably, you know, people are going to be wearing traditional gear, right, you know? He said, yeah. So I said, well, so I suppose it would be nice for us to make an effort. He went, yeah. So I arrived basically looking like Dr. Livingstone. I must have looked ridiculous, you know what I mean? Because this is New Zealand, after all. And so when someone had told me, yeah, make an effort, they meant you wear your special All Blacks shorts and your special jandals, give them a shine. So that's what I think of when I see photographs of it. Just me looking way overdressed.
That was really, really emotional, that first day that we came on for the porphyry. That was really special. I really enjoyed that day, and my family could come in as well. My girls came in, so you know, they were part of that, and they'd never seen that before.
I would like to give thanks on behalf of everyone here as visitors for this ceremony, for this celebration, for the blessing of the soundstage, and for the welcome that you offer to us. We're all deeply honoured to be here. And to everyone that has waited so long for this day to begin this extraordinary journey filming The Hobbit, I would like to wish them good luck, good health, and good harmony. Mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day to find our long forgotten gold.
Each group sings a song, does a waiata. The song is a vehicle for making sure that the words that were spoken travel to the places where they're supposed to be. And that kind of puts you a little bit closer to the spirit realm, and that's sort of where that tradition comes from.
It flaming spread, the trees like torches blazed with light.
To actually have that traditional ceremony and the feeling of tradition, and to bless the production and to start the wheels rolling of this massive machine was an incredible start.
You know, for a long time I thought that going back to the amazing experience of Lord of the Rings wouldn't be a good idea. But really, you know, now I've come completely around, because films are stressful and they're hard to make, but ultimately what makes them fun is the people that you work with. And the fact that, you know, we're going to be working with a lot of the old gang, with a lot of friends, and obviously making some new friends is really the point of being here. So I'm extremely thrilled. But, you know, if somebody came up to me today and said that we can carry on pre-production for another 6 weeks, I'd say no, no. Hell no, let's just start shooting.
Finally, this was the day we were starting. You felt that at that moment. You've got a huge ball or boulder at the top of a hill, and it's just there, and then you push that boulder, and then it just develops this life of its own. And that's kind of what it felt like when we started. It was like, where's this going to go?